Hello students, a very good morning to you. How are you? I hope you all okay and studying your chapter, that is the cell, regularly. This chapter is so much interesting, and through this chapter we can know that different organelles that present inside our cell, how they do various micro activities or micro function inside our body. You watch the video and also follow your NCERT book. Read each and every line and sentence and clear your concept. So students, let's continue at chapter 8 of class 11, the cell, the unit of life. As we know, cell is the structural and functional unit of every living organism. Like our body functions, the cell functions is exactly the same. So the different parts of the cell we already have yesterday. In this video we will see how the cell membrane plays an important role in the transportation and how it allows some substances inside it and some not. So students, let's understand this through the diagram of cell membrane. Today's topic is, as I have told you, cell membrane. What is cell membrane? Cell membrane is the outer layer of the cell, which is a characteristic feature of all the cells. That is the outer covering of the cell. On the basis of the need of cell, it allows substances. So what are present inside the cell which moves the substances from outside the cell and inwards the cell. So let's understand. You can see here the diagram of a cell membrane. What is this consist of? This consists of lipid bilayer, proteins, sugars and integral protein and peripheral protein. You can see the diagram, students. This line represents sugar. This is protein. I will tell you what they are. Next, they are the lipid bilayers. Lipid are arranged in bilayer. Then this is also lipid bilayer. This is lipid bilayer. This is lipid bilayer. And this portion, the central portion of the cell membrane, this is not already central. In regular intervals, we can see the integral proteins on the cell membrane. So, what are their function and what is the cell membrane does? Let's understand in detail. As we know, before the discovery of microscope, high magnifying microscope, we are unable to know, we are no more idea about the cell membrane. In the 1950s, after discovery of electron microscope, which has the ability to enlarge the size up to like your 25x, 30x, clear? So it can be show us a large magnifying image. So the first electron microscope was discovered after 1950s. Then after that, the structure of cell membrane is found to be made up of lipid. But gradually, when some more microscopes are developed, it was found that not only the cell membrane is made up of lipids, but also it is made up of proteins and carbohydrates. Is that clear? Proteins and carbohydrates. Again, the different cells present in our body are not made up of a particular type of substances. Means either protein, the cell membrane either made up of protein, either made up of carbohydrate, either made up of bilayer, lipid bilayer. So students, in case of human beings, the RBC has a protein and lipid bilayer present on its cell membrane, and that is in various proportion or ratio. We can see 52% protein and 40% lipid is present in human RBC, or which is called your erythrocytes. Clear? Some lipid components also consist of phosphoglycerides. The lipid components also consist of phosphoglycerides. Phosphoglycerides, we will study more about it in class 12. So, the proteins that are arranged in the cell membrane is of two types. One is integral protein or peripheral protein. Integral protein is partially or totally buried in the membrane. Means you can see These are the integral protein. They are either partially, means half of the protein buried in the cell membrane, means it is completely or partially buried, means present inside the cell membrane. Is that clear? Whereas peripheral protein, this protein is called integral protein. You can see some part of it is outside the membrane and some are inside the membrane. That's why it is called, either it is completely or partially buried in the cell membrane. Peripheral protein means, periphery means away from the center. So peripheral protein is always lies on the surface, means it can lies on the surface. But the integral protein is inside and the peripheral protein is on the surface, lies on the surface. This is, we can say as in, and this is on. So after, as I have told you, after the discovery of microscopes, it is found that the integral protein and peripheral proteins are present in different ratios and in different arrangement on the cell membrane, due to which in the 1972 Singer and Nicholson gave another theory on the cell membrane, and they explain about the nature of the cell membrane. Means, what is the nature of the cell membrane? Remember students, the scientist is Singer and Nicholson in the year 1972 has discovered another nature of the cell membrane, that is given by fluid mosaic model. Clear students? So according to Nicholson and Singer, the fluid mosaic model tells us the quasi-fluid nature of lipid enables lateral movement of protein within the overall bilayer. It means Nicholson and Singer said that fluid mosaic model is explains about the nature of the cell membrane, means how the fluidity of the membrane can be measured, what are its functions. The quasi-fluid nature of lipid. The quasi-fluid nature of lipid means able to movement the substances. Quasi-fluid means, suppose if you hold a bottle of water, this is not completely filled. If you move the bottle, the direction is like this. Some more water is come towards in this direction and some are in this direction. Left, right, so on. Exactly, the cell membrane shows the fluid mosaic nature, means fluidity. So how this fluidity is measured? According to Nicholson and Singer, they told that the quasi-fluid nature of lipid, remember the quasi-fluid nature of lipid enables lateral movement of protein, means the proteins can be laterally moved within the overall bilayer. You can see the bilayer protein here, and the movement may occur. The movement of protein on the lipid bilayer is lateral. Clear students? So we can say this ability to move in membrane is measured as fluidity. It means the movement of proteins on lipid bilayer is measured as fluidity. Means to measure the fluidity, we have to know that how much of the protein moves in the lipid bilayer. Is that clear students? So on this basis, we can say that the fluid nature of cell membrane helps in the cell growth, cell formation, cell differentiation by using the materials. Clear students? So according to, or the fluid mosaic model tells us about the fluid nature of the membrane, and this is also important for cell growth, formation of intercellular junctions, secretion, endocytosis and cell division. Clear? If question will come, what is the importance of fluid mosaic model? You can say it helps in cell division, cell differentiation, endocytosis, clear, etc. in nature. Next, as we know, the cell membrane or plasma membrane is called selectively permeable membrane. It means It doesn't allow all the substances to enter into it. Means it will not let entry any substance to it. Means the substances which is required for the cell, it only allows those substances. So how the transportation or movement of these substances occur in the cell or on the cell membrane? This is by some transport. Three different type of transport we know. Major two. One is your active transport and another is passive transport. So let's understand what is active transport and passive transport. Passive transport means simply the movement of substances from the region of high concentration to the region of lower concentration without expenditure of energy. Here energy means ATP. So we can say passive transport. In passive transport, the cell allows only those substances which are less inside the cell and more outside the cell. So here what happened? If some substances is more outside the cell and less inside the cell, it brings towards the cell. So here what happened? Here passive transport occurs. Students, remember again, in passive transport there is no energy is used. This occurs from the region of high concentration to the region of low concentration, that is called passive transport. Clear? Again, some neutral substances means which is present equal amount outside the cell and inside the cell. In this case, neutral osmosis occurs. Neutral osmosis means as the outside and inside contains the same solution, that's why simple diffusion occurs. We can say as simple diffusion means a little variation in outside and inside the cell, the concentration of the solute, and that enters inside the cell through simple diffusion. Clear? Next is your active transport. As I have told you, the function of cell membrane is to transport different substances inside and outside the cell. So first transportation medium is your passive, I have told, and second one is your active. Active means here the case is different. Means here energy is used in the form of ATP and the movement of substance is from low concentration to high concentration. You think if in a room your 5 students are present and outside the room there are 3 students are present, inside 5 and outside 3. Then in this case what happen? Who needs more energy? The 3 students who are outside need more energy. Exactly what happens if some substances is less outside the cell and more inside the cell. Less outside and more inside. In this case what happens? The cell have to take the less solute from outside. Due to this, it has to use the mode of transportation that is called active transportation, in which energy is used in the form of ATP. So simply you can say that when the movement of solute or substance occurs from the region of low concentration to the region of high concentration, there some energy is used in the form of ATP, and that is through sodium and potassium ion pump. Potassium sodium ion pump means we will study later that if 3 molecules of sodium is released to outside, then 2 molecules of potassium will enter to the cell, means inside. This is called sodium potassium transport. We will study later in chapter 13. Simply you understand that active transport occurs by using the ATP. Clear, students? Next is your called osmosis. What is called osmosis? You know about osmosis. Osmosis means movement of water by diffusion. As we know, diffusion occurs in gases. Simply we define diffusion means the movement of gases from the region of high concentration to the region of low concentration. But here osmosis means movement of water, means liquid movement of water by diffusion, means from the region of high concentration to the region of low concentration is called as osmosis. So here we know about three different types of transportation: passive transportation, active transportation, and osmosis. Osmosis takes place in small distances, whereas active and passive transports occurs in large distances. And for large distances, in passive transport there will be no energy used, and in active transport there is energy is used in the form of ATP and by the help of sodium potassium pump. Next is our cell wall. Like cell membrane, cell wall is also made up of different substances. Cell wall is the characteristic feature of all plants, means all plant cells are made up of cell wall. So the cell wall is made up of different things. Different things means like the plant cells are made up of cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin. If we see the plant cell, the animal cell, the bacterial cell, the fungal cell, etc., etc. So plant cell is made up of, in which substances? They are as cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin. These are the substances which makes the cell wall and gives strength and rigidity to it. In case of fungal cell wall, if I consider here fungal cell wall, then the fungal cell wall is made up of chitin. Chitin is a substance which will not easily degrade or not easily decompose. Same for bacterial cell wall. For bacterial cell wall, the substance is lysozyme or lysosome. We can say as lysosome. Clear, students? Again, if we see the cell wall of algae, then it is made up of cellulose, galactans, mannans, etc. The cell wall of algae, is made up of the cell wall of algae. Algae is made up of some cell wall is made up of cellulose. You know about cellulose because some algae show photosynthesis. That's why we can say that the cell wall of algae is made up of cellulose. And some are made up of galactans. Clear, students? Galactans you have studied in chapter 2. Galactans, then mannans and minerals. Like your potassium, calcium, carbonate, etc. Clear? Potassium, calcium and carbonate. Etc. Clear, students? So this is the cell wall of algae. The middle lamella is mainly made up of calcium pectate. Students, remember, in case of plant cells, one is outer layer, another is inner layer. The middle layer gives strength and rigidity because of it is made up of calcium pectate. Clear, students? Calcium pectate holds the other two layers. Like glue is used to stick the substances. Suppose you stick your pages, stick your broken handle of cup, etc. So the calcium pectate present in the middle lamella, calcium pectate present in the middle lamella helps in glue or helps in attaching the substances. Clear, students? Next, again, the middle lamella of the cell wall has a plasmodesmata membrane. During sympod and antipod in chapter 13, when we will study, you will know about plasmodesmata. Plasmodesmata membrane is present on the middle lamella. Here, plasmodesmata Plasmodesmata also present, through which the movement of water can't occur. That is called plasmodesmata, and this is connects the neighbor cell through the cytoplasm. Plasmodesmata, we can say plasmodesmata connects the neighbor cell, connects the neighbor cell through the cytoplasm. Clear, students? This is all about your cell membrane and cell wall. In our next class, we will study about endomembrane system.